Oh, hello there, and welcome to another episode of Bugwatch. I am your boy Swissley, and I'm here to talk to you about Tyranids. It's been a while, it's been a hot minute. We had a battle report, so that kind of unfortunately took up the time I would have done to do another episode of Bugwatch 2 weeks ago. But I'm back now with a show just before the wonderful festive period. Unfortunately, JP was going to join us tonight, but he cannot make it. Good news though. We've got the wonderful Jack Chapman. How are you doing, Jack? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm here to be your backup person. I'm here to give some really bad takes on Tyranids and upset everyone in the chat.
Absolutely. Well, we know you're good at that, so that's good. So instead of JP, we have JC, which is quite nice. So happy to see it. Jack, just give a bit of an introduction about yourself to the audience in case they haven't seen you on any of our other content.
Okay. Well, for myself, I guess I'll just give it a quick run through. It's my 40k history is quite short. Started playing about 2/3 of the way through 9th edition. Picked up Tau, and I have played Tau ever since, and that is it. But one thing I do have that is relevant for Bugwatch here today, I think Tyranids is by far and away my most common opponent that I've played against. Partially thanks to you, Davey, but I have a lot of friends that play it, and it's just a common army at this point. So I've got a lot of experience playing against it. So
yeah, we were one of the main taken factions, despite not being broken. You know, remember when like Harlequins were amazing and everyone took them, and when GSC were amazing, everyone took them, and Knights were amazing and everyone took them. We don't need to be amazing, and people still take us. I have no idea why, but I also think there's a lot of fairly simplistic rules in there, right? So if you're an invasion fleet, you just go, well, everyone has sustained. You know, I think that's obviously another cool thing about it. So, no, well, welcome, Jack. Who we got in chat? We have Hristo. Good to see you again, mate. He's going to watch this live. It never happens. Yeah, man. We never see you in chat. If you don't know Hristo, guys, he's a really great tournament player in the UK. Happy to see him here. Paul Evans, hey mate, how you doing? Good to see you. Tyron, our good friends in Barcelona, who are coming to Nottingham. So, some of you might know that me and Aaron occasionally go to Barcelona for a GT. Well, we're dragging those guys over to the UK, to Nottingham, to go to Warhammer World and go to the Nottingham GT. They are, I think they're secretly terrified about coming over, mostly for getting their models here. I keep getting asked, like, can I fit this in a suitcase? Can I borrow your Tyranids and things like that? So, and absolutely, very excited to see them at the event. They're going to really have a great time. So yes, very cool. And yeah, Thristo says is everyone plays Tyranids because the coolest faction. I mean, it is really, isn't it? Absolutely. So cool. Right. Well, let's get on with the show, guys. We've got a few different things to talk about. I hear some things happen, Jack. Did something happen in December? I can't quite tell.
one or two things that were new, I think, possibly. I wasn't really paying much attention. There's not much going on.
I mean, God, like, how many detachments? Everyone's like, I mean, I don't know about you. I've been going through list writing hell, trying to figure out what do I take, what else will be good, what do I need to prepare for, all of that kind of stuff. I think it's yikes. You know, there's so much to think about with all these detachments. Is there anything you've seen in these detachments that you've went, oh, that one's the one that's broken? And if you're going to say Star Shatter, have another one after that instead.
No, I'm right there with you, man, on the list building front. Analysis paralysis is kind of the name of the game right now for me. And everything seems to be 5 points over, and it's driving me insane. But yeah, I mean, the detachments that are kind of sticking out to me, again, see Star Shatter is just generically good and just totally overtuned. That's fine. It's not, but we just ignore it and pretend it's fine. The other one that really stands out to me is the Grey Knights one. Really like the Grey Knights one. It's very aggressive, very high damage output, and it's just easy to play. It's just so, I think it's got everything you could possibly want for a Grey Knights player there. Whereas the previous detachment, or the index detachment, is your brain's on fire. It's overheating as you're trying to think of every option that you can run. And this one's just shoot stuff with reroll hits and reroll wounds, and it dies. So, or combat it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably a standout for me.
That was obviously the best one, and then underneath is, I think if we had 5 different people on, they would say 5 different detachments, and I think that's kind of cool, right? I think there is something quite nice about that. The World Eaters one dropped today. I've been going back and forth over whether I think that's awesome or not. I'm kind of in the middle at the moment, actually, about whether how good it is. Doesn't give you as much scoring flexibility because you just want to be taking absolute chunky units
There's
and pushing
there's
them
a
at people.
there's a couple like that just seem to be like side grades from what you
Mm.
already get, which is for some armies good and some armies not good. But yeah, I feel like Tyranids is kind of in that same spot actually. It's a very because there's obviously quite a few Tyranid detachments and it kind of sits like in the middle really.
Oh, it really does. You're right. Okay, well, without spoiling it too much, let's go to. Of course, I've done slides, guys. Of course, we've done a deck, right? This wouldn't be bug watch unless we did, right? So, there we go. Oh no, it's big me. There we go. Big screen. Cool. So we're going to have a quick look at some things and talk about some stuff. First of all, though, before we do that, I just want to highlight we do have a GT in the UK coming to you in the wonderful city of Barnsley. Did you know that Barnsley has 4 Gregs in the town centre? Did you know that?
I didn't
Because
know that.
you could visit all of them if you came to our GT. It is wonderful. There's, I think, 2 Weatherspoons, so you can queue for a pint with a bacon roll. Right, wonderful world we live in. But no, our GT is awesome. It's going to be great. I'm gutted. I'm not going to play in it myself. I'm going to actually be doing odd jobs, maybe commentating on stream. It would be right. Okay, here's what I'm going to ask the guys watching to do. I would love to commentate on stream. I don't want to collect glasses, and I don't want to be like doing a rules lawyery stuff, right? So if you all could like message Tom Lohman and just say, and Chris, and just say Dave needs to commentate. We just want him in every game. That'd be really appreciated. The event is really cool. It's all sportsmanship focused. So there's loads. So there's rewards for winning, but there's also really strong rewards for sportsmanship. We're using WTC terrain, which is going to be super sick. Obviously in the UK, if you don't know, if you're not from the UK, you might not know, but we tend to use UKTC everywhere. You do see a little bit of GW terrain here and there, but WTC is quite rare. You see it a bit in Scotland, to be fair, but not much down south of the border. So we're really excited to be getting that terrain on the table, giving people a chance to experience that. So that's very cool. There's only there's not that many tickets remaining, if I'm right. I can't remember off the top of my head, actually. But yes, very exciting. Go and find out about tickets. You'll be able to find it in the description of this video, I hope. Cool. All right. So, big question number 1. We got a new detachment. Is Bioform good? Discuss. No, I mean, it's... So, the rules. Obviously, you guys know the rules. I'm late with this video to that release, so I don't need to tell you the rules. You know what the strats are. You know all that. So I was going to give you my top line. Luckily enough, my first game with this was against Jack, interestingly enough. I've now played 3 games with it. So I've played against... Were you on Tower when I played you, Jack? No,
I was on Tower, yeah.
You were on Tower, yeah. And then I played against Tom with his T-Sons. And then yesterday I played... a couple of days ago... Oh, for the battle report. You should watch the battle report. I'll show you the picture of that in a minute. But I played against the new Dracarliquins attachment, which was really cool. And the Bioform, with the Bioform was okay. I've won 2 games, I've lost 1. Still learning what's really good in it, I suppose. So yeah, let's go into what I've learned during that time. Oh, there's the battle report, by the way, if you want to do that. That literally aired an hour ago, so you can now go and watch that. That's going to be really cool. It's only 25 minutes. So nice, easy. You don't need to spend 3 hours of your day watching a battle report.
It's a good battle report.
That's also wonderful because Jack, this guy, that guy right there, has a new show on our network, if you can call it that, which is TTS Battle Reports. If you would just give us a top line on that, Jack.
So we're basically reigniting the fight night. We're doing Thursday night fight nights. We are doing them every Thursday starting in January. From the 2nd, and we are getting guests lined up from other channels, army specific channels, or come in and play some games with us. And we basically sit there we're planning to go from 7:30. We sat there for a couple of hours and we play the whole game out on TTS. And you can see how where's this 25-minute episode you get like the sort of overall macro sense of the game. This one is the very in-depth minutia, so it's a very different sort of thing. If that's what you're into, and obviously we all have a really good laugh, we have a good chat, and yeah, we get to talk about a whole host of various things. Yeah, and you were on there.
I was on there.
We did some Grotmas test streams, and you played your Tyranids on there against Tom's Flyballoon host.
Absolutely, yeah, and well, go and watch that. That was a good game as well. But I think what I like about the about Jack's show on TTS, and rather than seeing one in person, is actually you can just like if you want to see an angle, you just ask Jack. Jack will find the angle for you. If there is action happening, Jack finds the angle for you. So you can always see what's going on. You always feel like you're involved with the game, whether you're painting or watching or doing whatever you're doing. So no, big fan of that. So yeah, this Bite Size Battle Rep is in an in-person game. I played against Trash Wargaming's Ben Pierce, lovely guy, probably one of the loveliest guys in the game, to be fair. And it was a really good game. We'll also have another game where I took actually Creations of Bile against his Dracoliquins as well. That'll be in our members content if you wanted to watch that. Cool, boom. All right, so, actually, before we talk on mine, let's go through the chat, because I've seen some spicy takes. We've seen Fristo has said that the Warrior Bioform detachment sits at the bottom. It's not very good. Okay. I don't think it's at the bottom. I think that place is specifically reserved for Unending Swarm at the moment, but I totally get your point.
It's all right. Fristo always says Tyranids are bad, so it's fine.
Yeah, and then takes them every time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, yes, Vanguard is rubbish, but then also then takes Vanguard. Yeah, he's a funny guy, he's Fristo. Paul Evans, I was still hoping for a poisonous spore cloud detachment that uses auras. If you want to use auras, I tell you who, Assimilation Swap is probably your friend there, right? I mean, it's surprising they never gave Venom Throps and the big lad the Harvester keyword. I was surprised by that, because that would have been, kind of fits nicely, right? But I suppose then you just don't lose any wounds because you've got so many units. Tyron says the Warrior detachment was a letdown. Forgewell Titan, who our good friend, oh my God, Byron, he said it's not bad, it's not great either. I think I'm in that camp, really. Yes, 20 Gargoyles with a Prime. Well, we might talk about that in a second, Byron. I'm a big fan. So yeah, just running through. Yeah, Vanguard is good, Fristo says. Okay, fine. Right, let's talk about the Bioform on short of the mark, is it? Maybe. Well, here's what I like about the detachment. I actually consider it more of a gargoyle detachment. So yes, the Warriors do get the 5 pinball. Yes, they get OC3, which is super cool. But gargoyles getting a 5 pinball is really great. It's just super nice. There's other synergies with that weird strat where they have to target the Warriors first, so then the Gargoyles can get the -1 to hit. I do think there's something in that. I don't think it's necessarily a complete miss. I think there's a world where if you're move blocking an opponent with Gargoyles and you have Warriors on a objective, they've got to mow down all the Gargoyles before they can move past, or they can target the Warriors first and stop you scoring primary, but then you give the Gargoyles a -1 to wound. Of course, that is a trick potentially on the Tyranid player as well, because actually you might not want to shoot the Gargoyles. You might charge them. I do think there's an interesting play around that. I don't think it's a complete miss. But let's go in the likes. So, OC. This detachment gives you loads of OC, encourages Gargoyles, but also the Warriors get 3 OC each, which is amazing. And that's come into play in every game I've played. Every single one. Gargoyles. I like the Gargoyles with a prime and the -1 to hit. So one thing I was doing was sticking 20 Gargoyles with a prime with the -1 to hit strat, and then throwing them forward the turn before I'm going to do Shadows in the Warp, because the ruling is anyone within 6 inches of the unit gets the -1 to their battle shock tests. Of course, if you have a Neurotyrant, it's another -1, and if you don't have the -1 to hit enhancement and you give them, oh no, I'm thinking of Synaptic Nexus. I did that in another detachment, forget that. But the -1 to hit, so you're going to get -2 to the battle shock test. By the by, I might as well tell you that I went to an RTT last weekend. I took 20 Gargoyles and a prime, same thing, but with the Dirge Heart, so that we could get up to nearly -3 if I had a Neurotyrant on the battle shocks, which was kind of cool. It's a very expensive package though, so there is downsides. There was a guy that took this detachment to a GT, I think in Sweden, and won it, and he had 3 Maleceptors, so I decided to try Maleceptors. They were really good. +2 strength on the Maliceptors. Also giving -1 to hit against warriors that are, still a bit flimsy. It was really nice. It's a nice combination, those 3 units, Gargoyles, Maliceptors, warriors. So that's what I would base a list off if it was me going into using this detachment. And then, of course, warriors respawning onto objectives. So just like you do with Gargoyles, you can just put 1 warrior on an objective and then the other 5 behind a wall. If they kill 4, it's fine. You've still got 1 left or 2 left, and you can just respawn onto the objective and score primary. So really nice, and just a bit of a kind of leading point until the next, until you see what I dislike about the strats. That's very similar to stuff we already do, right? We can already do that with any unending swarm, endless multitude unit. So here's what I disliked. Polishing the ultimate turd, right? Buffing ranged warriors, 65-point ranged warriors, right, are rubbish, right? They're not good units. -1 AP on their attacks and their melee just is not really that great. You can fall back and shoot and charge, which, to be fair, came up once in 3 games, and it was quite handy when it did come up. I think as well, buffing up those units, there's basically 4 strats and 2 enhancements that only affect them. Now, you could say, no, they could affect the melee warriors as well. You can give them +1 to hit and stuff. If you give melee warriors +1 to hit, it's 6 extra attacks. Like, it's not amazing. 6 extra hits. It's just not fantastic. The strats buffing that really mediocre unit just feels like, like you see some of the other strats in other detachments, because of course you look sideways with envious eyes at some of these other detachments. And you say, I don't see them buffing 65-point melee warrior comparisons. So yeah, that's one of the downsides.
Looks at my 65-point crew getting buffs.
Yeah. And we all know how much Jack loves crew.
So much.
I mean, they're just Tyranids, but they've learnt language, right? So
yeah,
fine.
Exactly.
The other thing I dislike about it is the core of the list hasn't changed, right? You're still really taking, Malicept is a little bit of a change, but you still want those Rupture Fexes, you still want the Exocrines if you want this list to work, to be fair. And then the ultimate thing that I'm just a bit gutted about, and why I'm not really keen on it, is it's just another way of standing on objectives and trying not to die that quickly. You can do that in any detachment. That's what essentially we do. We don't really have a killy detachment. Vanguard Onslaught is our most killiest because it's fast, but it's just not. This is just bad, right? So yeah, it's just not really doing it. It's not really killing anything. It's enabling you to stand on objectives, cool. Enabling you to not die as quickly, cool. Enabling you to have massive OC, great. But I've got so many ways to put things on objectives and just try not to die. It would have been really cool to see something else. So yeah, funnily enough, this comes out, and then the newest exciting thing is Assimilation Swarm. So yeah. Brain Seller in the chat also agreeing Warrior Bioform is just Vanguard with less versatility. Yeah, I see a little bit of that. So yeah. Any thoughts on our game, Jack, if you remember it? I know you've got a better memory for this stuff than me.
Yeah, no, it seemed fine to me. To be honest, the thing that really struck me about that game was how hard the Tyranid warriors were to put down. They just kept living just like a little bit more than they should, which as a result with the bringing a warrior back thing was just a real pain for me in that game. I feel like Tyranid lists, and again, this is going to be a bad Tyranid take, but this is just me looking at it from the outside.
No, we like to see it, mate. We like to see the different opinion.
You have 2 different types of Tyranid lists. You have Tyranid good stuff, right, which is your Exocrines, your Tyrannofexes, Maliceptors, a bunch of Gaunt subtypes and all that sort of stuff, right? And that's like what Invasion Fleet plays. It's what Vanguard kind of plays. It's what this will play essentially. And you just swap around a few bits here and there. Like your warriors will be as a scoring piece instead, and maybe you have like a big of warriors that you buff up and do a thing with. And those detachments, like which one you pick is kind of just like a preference, or like which is the trick that you like the most. But in general, they all have kind of a similar power. There are detachments for Tyranids that let you switch up the playstyle a lot with Crusher and I think Assimilation a little bit. Whereas most of the other ones are kind of just Tyranid good stuff. So I can totally understand when you've already got like 3 or 4 detachments that are that already, and then you get another one which is kind of the same. It's not the most thrilling thing in the world. But I don't think it's so from that perspective it's bad. But I don't think in terms of like power level this detachment is bad. I think it's just near enough the same, like within touching distance of the other ones that are commonly used for Tyranids.
Yeah.
Which is just not exciting, which is just not what you really want. I
No,
will
I
say
think that's a really good take, man. I think that's a really good take. I think one of the interesting things with learning a new detachment, and you know this as someone who tries new armies, right, is learning it all is actually really hard. And you get, anxiety comes in because you're like, oh, am I doing this right? Oh, I forgot to use that strat. And then, so will you spend the time to learn this new detachment if it's just as good as what you were doing before? You just won't, will you? I did see the guys at Barnyard Gaming did try. Barnyard Gaming, great channel. Aussie guys do battle reports, very fun. Go and check them out. They play Tyranids quite a bit on there, and he just took the 72 Warriors against the T-Suns detachment, and still just got bodied on the scoreline, which I thought was really interesting because I thought 72. At least you are going to stat check someone, but I guess people just get through that now. This new meta is so killy, man. Have you seen all this? Everything is so killy now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it. You mentioned Tyranid Warrior, the ranged Tyranid Warriors before for 65 points, right?
Yeah.
That's the same points as Catachans. So that's kind of like the same kind of tier of unit I'm putting Warriors in now. Which whether they should be in that kind of tier of unit is another question entirely. But I think 65 points for that unit isn't bad. I think that's totally fine. I know I would pay 65 units for a point like that, for a unit like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most armies probably would for like an action economy unit or something like that.
Yeah, they're a fine scoring piece for what they are, but they just don't do what you would want Tyranid Warriors to do, right? Which I think is kind of the disconnect. Which is, in fact, this is the exact same disconnect I have with Crisis Suits. I think I've talked to you about this before. Is that they don't do what I want them to do, and so I feel disappointed and let down by them. That doesn't mean they're bad. I'm just trying to use them for a thing that they're not. Well, that's
Square
not what
peg,
they're
round
for
hole.
in this edition. Yeah, square peg round hole, exactly.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean, which you mentioned this before, and I think this is kind of how you use the Warriors in your latest battle report, when you kind of use them, you basically just took Tyranid good stuff and had your Warriors fit the whole of, say, that second Gargoyle unit or the third Exocrine or whatever it was, right? And they basically just did scoring stuff for you, right? And there was, in the Vanguard list, that would be a Gene Stealer unit. But that's fine. And I think that's okay. If you really like Warriors, then you can play Warriors in that detachment. And it's totally fine. But I think if you're going to expect Warriors to just be absolute killer, they're not going to become Death Company, right, from Blood Angels, and they're not going to shred the universe apart with their bone swords, unfortunately, as much as you may want them to, which is a shame.
Oh, I missed 9th edition.
Yeah, exactly. But so
I totally get it, man. Totally get it. We've got some Christo again. Big in chat. You should come every week, Christo. He's saying that he totally agrees with you in terms that a similar, it's turning good stuff plus a little bit of salty flavouring in there for most lists. And then we have the Range Warriors being able to strip cover for 1 CP enables 3 Maleceptors. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. If you are going to take this list, I would probably drop 3 Maleceptors in there. I'd probably take 3-3-mans of ranged and maybe a 6-man of melee. With a prime in the melee unit, and then just loads of gargoyles with a prime in each, probably.
I'm actually not a fan of the Gargoyle Prime unit.
Oh, come on.
I would like to be, because it's cool tech, but every time I've seen you play it, I mean, apart from the fact that you sort of about this combo with the Synapse thing, and every time you've told me about it, you've immediately just gone second and it hasn't worked, which is funny. But beyond that, it just it just doesn't quite.
Oh yeah.
Every time I've watched you play it, it's gone out in the middle, and it's been shot, and it's died exactly to the man, including the prime. Every time I've watched you do it.
Well, in that last game, in the battle report that I've just done, it survived with like 4 guys left and then didn't do anything the rest of the game. It went back and hid and filled this battle shock every turn, which was quite funny. But no, I get what you're saying. I don't think it's very powerful. It's not like it's, you look at some of the most powerful things in the game and you're like, is 20 gargoyles in a prime making everyone take battle shocks at -1 that good? Probably not.
It's cool tech, and I think it's good in a singles list because you can just like say lol I win terraform, right? Which can be good, But that's one of those things where it's a perfect thing to pull out for singles. I think just a
Yeah.
little like ace in the hole that you can just ruin someone's day
Yeah.
with.
And worst case scenario, fires a phase onto an objective and you deny primary. Like, it's kind of cool. It's all right. Cool. So moving on to the next segment, guys, we have Judge Jack. So
Where did you get that picture? Good
I
Lord.
know, Facebook.
Oh,
Yes.
you
Don't you
evil
ever have
man!
me on
You
as friends on
evil
Facebook.
man!
I will take pictures. So what we have here is this was Judge JP until 10 minutes before the show. Judge Jack, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the changes that happened in the data slate. For those who are listening, there's a picture of Jack with a judge wig on and a hammer, and he's going to hammer down on justice on the data slate changes and the points changes. So we're going to talk about what happened and then what our thoughts on it are. It'll be really interesting to get Jack's opinion on this, actually, because it'll be really interesting to see what, if he sees a unit across the board from him that's had these changes, what's he thinking as a non-Tyranid player?
It's really easy to not see the forest for the trees when you play the army all the time, right? So
Absolutely. So I think the unit that got the most changes was the Norn Assimilator. So, funny story, I took the Norn Assimilator last weekend in Synaptic Nexus. He killed the Silent King, one of the Doomsday Arcs. He killed Canis Rex and a War Dog, and he killed the Lion. Like 3 games and just bodied characters. It was so good. Is the unit good though? Well, we're not sure. Here's the changes, guys. Here's the changes. Down 15 points. Great. We all wanted this to come down. And it gained the Harvester keyword. However, the downside of this, it lost the good AOC in Synaptic Nexus, which was kind of like a bit of a sidekick at Synaptic Nexus. That was actually the detachment I was looking at playing for the next couple of months, but that AOC change is a bit stinky. And then the change in the meta, and this is very broadly speaking, doesn't like big Necron guns, doesn't necessarily like the changes that we're going to see to Ultramarines. Compliant Marines. It won't all be Ultramarines, I promise you. You won't see green Guillimans. But yes, so that's kind of the ups and downs. Raxol in the chat says the same thing. +1 to be wounded is just kind of around now. So these guys, not a big fan of that at T11. Well, if they were T12, it would be like, okay, it's fine, don't worry. But T11 puts it on 4s to wound from anything on strength 6 or more. What's your thoughts, Judge Jack? What do you reckon?
I think this unit has got a pretty big glow up, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest issue that I always saw with the Norns, because I've written a few Tyranid lists in my time and showed them to you, and you told me they were terrible. But generally, the issue that I found with them was that they were just too expensive to justify. So going down in points is always helpful, especially if you want to run like 2 or 3. That's a lot of points to go down by. The Harvester keyword is just... that's just huge, right? That's a transformative data sheet for that detachment, right? Because as far as I'm aware, like, correct me if I'm wrong, there were no real like damage dealer units that had the Harvester keyword before. It's just Pyrovores.
High respects, but it slows anything.
Right, exactly. So having an actual, killer to go into that detachment is really solid. I think that's a big glow up for that detachment. I think the AOC in Synaptic Nexus is less of an issue. So a lot of the time when you use AOC, you're kind of not needing to use it against literally everything that's shooting against you. Normally there's one unit that's like, okay, this is the one I've got to worry about. And then the rest is just kind of, ancillary extras. You can get it against the worst threat that's the worst for you. So, it is a nerf, but it's not the biggest nerf in the world. If the difference between this unit living and dying is whether you have AOC against 3 units rather than 1, then you're only a couple dice rolls off it dying anyway.
Have you ever played against one of these, Jack? Actually, and I'm only asking this from a point of, have we ever seen it on the table?
I haven't, no,
No.
because you don't like them.
Yeah. I do now.
yeah.
I've got one painted. As I say, it was the first time I got them actually on the table last week, and it was a lot of fun. I have seen a very good player. Obviously, everyone knows I've interviewed him on the show. Greg Chamberlain posted in our Discord that he was trying a 3 non-assimilator list with, I suppose, other assimilation swamp bits and bobs, which kind of sounds cool, 3 assimilators, but yeah, I'm not so sure on UKTC whether that works. So
the last point that I want to bring up about the assimilator, that
sure.
I think is really good about it, is it's really, really flexible. You can play it as you want to use it, like essentially like an objective holder, a stat check, right? You can bring it in from reserve and get like a smaller charge on your reserve.
Mm-hmm.
You can run it off and towards the opponent's deployment zone and start hunting people down. There's lots of things that you can do with it, like playstyle wise. So I think that just makes it a fun unit to use. So
yeah, absolutely. So are we, Judge Jack? Are we up or are we down? What do you reckon?
we're up on the assimilator, yeah, for sure.
Good stuff. All right, let's look at the non-emissary. So the non-emissary got similar changes, 15 points down. Still largely better than an assimilator. And I say that a bit tongue in cheek. That's what generally the consensus of people is, right? That it's just the 4-up invul makes it better. The shooting is better and more flexible. So we say it's largely better. It did also tick that AOC nerf rather, and then we also saw not a fan of Necrons in terms of the new shooting. So what do you reckon about the non-emissary? Are you excited? You think this is up or down? I mean, up or down? Do you think it's better than the non, worse than the
non? It's less, again, it's kind of less flexible, which I like less. But the 4-up invuln is just, again, it just makes it a better stat check piece.
Mm-hmm.
So what it loses in flexibility, it gains in like one specific role that you want it to run.
Yeah, the assimilator's got a 2-up armor, and those Doomsday Axe are -4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that was rough. Was it -4? I can't remember.
I believe they're -3. I think they're the same, but they're dev wounds if they don't move.
Yeah, Silent King is -4, and the Minervas maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. I mean, they're a very similar unit. I can't remember, what's the total points cost of these units? I can't quite remember.
Oh god, now you're asking. I think it's 275 for the assimilator and 260 for the non-emissary. Top of my head. Correct me if I'm wrong in chat.
The Norn is the one with the higher strength melee attacks, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bigger damage 3.
Yeah, if I remember from your game watching at the RTT, this guy caps out at strength 9, which is less than ideal. It's very awkward.
10 now because of Synapse.
Yeah, it's a very awkward points to be at. I'm kind of like less hype on this one than the other one for reasons that I don't quite understand. But it just like I mean a 2+ armor save is like equivalent to a 4-up in cover against AP3. Right? Yeah. It's the same thing. So against real dedicated anti-tank, I mean, it's one of those things where you can just live things that you shouldn't with a 4-up invuln save, but you also can just die to things that you shouldn't with a 4-up invuln save.
Yeah. Case in point, that game last week, I saw the RTT. I lost my first game against Necrons, and the non-emissary died turn 1. Blew up, did 12 mortal wounds between 2 units around it. So great times.
Yeah, they're fine. I think if you had if you want to run like a triple Norn list and you could run like a mix of the two, then that'd be totally fine. Yeah, I
think so. Cool. So up or down, just less than the assimilator from what I'm hearing.
It is better because 15 points is better than the nerf it took with AOC, but it's not as good as the assimilator because it didn't get the keyword.
All right, let's go to the next one. Trigon, very simple. This one came down 20 points. I read that and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I can't wait to drop a bunch of these in my lists. And then the data slate dropped. And they come in 6 inches away now, and they can't come in 6 inches away in your opponent's movement phase with a rapid ingress anymore. So no more cheeky stealing away objectives. So Trigons, I think in this meta actually they'd have quite done okay. because a lot of Marines, there's going to be a lot of Marine bodies. I think there's going to be a lot of infantry Marine bodies knocking about. And these guys do not mind that whatsoever. Even if they are hitting on threes, they still got, I think it's 12 attacks, damage 3. They're going to love stuff like all different flavors of Marines, generally speaking. So, a shame that I think this has nerfed them into untakeable territory, because I don't think they do anything special anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I remember talking to Christo about Trigons, and he always told me that they were more of a distraction piece than anything else. I think they still fulfill that role, and probably did it better for 20 points less. But the not being able to come in within 3 makes them... only be able to come in, only to be able to rapid ingress them within 9 makes it such that they're going to be much easier for the opponent to kind of ignore or just chaff them up, or just put that as a problem for a later time, right? Whereas the 3-inch deep strike or 3-inch rapid ingress deep strike was, okay, you have to deal with this like right now, or you're going to get screwed, which is unfortunate. He is paying for a rule which is basically worthless now. 6-inch deep strike in your movement phase on a non-shooting unit, it's just totally bloody pointless. So that kind of sucks. 20 points down, he's basically lost the data sheet rule. That probably makes him worse overall. I don't.
Yeah, I suppose here's a way of thinking about it. Would you pay? Right, I'm going to give you a Tau enhancement, or maybe it doesn't work for Tau because you're a shooting army. But I'm going to give a melee army, World Eaters, a 20-point enhancement that you can deep strike 3 inches away, 3 inches away. For that, it's 20 points. I think you take it, right? Because you could just rapid ingress next to something that's not going to kill it, and then it sounds awesome. But 20 points, I feel like. This almost is like a Haruspex level of 125. So the Haruspex is it's got 2 different profiles of attack, but it's movement 8, so it's slightly slower. But it has a weird battle shock ability. It's by the by, but I'm as excited to take that as I am a Trigon now.
Yeah, I mean, we're living in a world right now where the kind of damage that this thing puts out, strength 9 or 10 with synapse that's not it, right? That's just not, it's not good enough, right? So, against T5 stuff, it's okay, but it's not going to be a world ender. It's just not. It doesn't put out the damage output that you need for this kind of unit to be justifiable, I think, because it's 150 now. 150.
150, yeah, 150 points is not a small amount.
Yeah.
We do have some love in the chat for it. Paul Evans and Brain Cellar saying, we love that in Crusher Stampede. Big fan of it in Crusher Stampede. That's what they're saying. I will hold judgment on that. It'll be interesting to see. And then Bristol with another solid take here. We've got 50 data sheets, 45 of which do tricks and 5 do damage.
I think it's kind of the Trigon. If you're going to take it, I think Crush is the right way to go.
Yeah, I you know what? If I had to take one, it would be on that. I probably wouldn't bother with it in Vanguard Onslaught. I think Morlock's just so much more compelling now. So
yeah.
Hey ho. All right, I think we've got our judgment on that. Let's go to the next one. Tyron Guard, 5 points for 3 down, or 10 points for 6, so nice and easy. Still a bit expensive for what they do. So they're 80 points for 3 and 160 for 6. They can be led by a Hive Tyrant or Swarm Lord, which I suppose the stonks for that have gone up a little bit in Assimilation Swarm now, which is probably where people want to take this. Some people used to take it in Synaptic Nexus, but not convinced that's that compelling anymore. So yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this. The list that I've seen for Assimilation Swarm of the 3 Norns also has the 2 6-mans with 2 6-mans of Tyrant Guard with the Swarm Lord with the Hive Tyrant. So total chunk city, maybe a new thick city, so to speak. I'm not convinced that this is still good enough because, I mean, are they melee warriors at 75? 5 points more, you get these guys who have +1 armor save and, as Fristo says, a lot less teeth. Um, as he says here, I stand corrected. Tyron Guard neither do tricks nor damage. Yeah, it's true. I really want these guys to be cool. I really want them to be good, but I feel like they're just not really offering anything. If you're wondering what the rule is, if you've forgotten, and I wouldn't blame you, I believe it's they give the leader of their unit a 5-up Fionn pin. Like, what, in case someone tries to precision it? Like, what? That's so lame. Have you got any thoughts on this one, Jack?
I do. I think these are much more interesting now with the changes to assimilation swarm. Yeah. Because the assimilation swarm stratagems and abilities to regen models all happen in different phases, which means the unit isn't limited by the fact that all the models that are resurrected in the same phase need to be within 2 inches of each other. So you can resurrect one in your command phase, I believe it is. You can use a strat to then in another phase
I think there's 3 different. You can do it 3 times.
Yeah.
I think when you lose a unit at the start of the phase.
And there's an enhancement, I think, to let you do it again.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So you can do that to like string this unit out, and it gets a lot more movement. So it kind of gets around the slowness issue that they have.
Yeah. And each one's 4 wounds, to be fair.
Yeah, it's a lot of value you get out of resurrecting these models. And I think if you're running Assimilation Swarm, one thing that Assimilation Swarm does miss is that like kind of stodgy unit to hold the midfield. Because you have Norns, but Norns tend to work on the sides.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the points that you would be using for things like your scoring units, you may use up on other things in Assimilation Swarm, like your Norns, like your Pyrovores, like your Rippers, stuff like that. So I can
they'll have a 6-up Fionn ping because of Psychophages as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think once you start layering up buffs on these guys to make them more defensive, they can be a nice like little defender unit, and they can really hold people up for a super long time, long enough for a Norn to come in there and do that. They're kind of like that. They're not going to kill anything, right? Realistically, like they're not that unit, right? But they can hold something up for way more time than they probably should. So I think they're more interesting in Assimilation Swarm. But again, is it good enough for you to take it in your list? I probably would because they're cool, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think we'll get to it in a second because we're going to talk about Assimilation Swarm in a second. I don't think Assimilation Swarm is that interesting and I say that in a play sense, not necessarily in how good it is. Actually, it's pretty good, but I think we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah. Not the unit I would take for trying to win a super major, that's for sure.
Well, I think that's a really good point. If you want to win games, necessarily this isn't the way to go. And again, I know I hate to say it, but Hristo with another I don't hate to say it, he's great. With another great point, saying it's not very good on UKTC. You've got that big wall of terrain that the Hive Tyrants, etc. can't go through. I think this is a lot more compelling. And we've seen Craig Parker do very well with it, of Maelstrom Gaming. Go and check him out. He's got a channel as well. And he came first with this, I think it was first, or he came second or something, third maybe, with a GT going 5-0, and he had, the 2 blocks, and he's on GW terrain, right? So I think they just move, the Hive Tyrants just move more freely through that. So absolutely fair. Cool. All right. So Assimilation Swarm, good little segue there. So the changes here, they can now regen everywhere, and they regen D3 plus 1. And he got himself a new unit in the terms of a harvester, which we've talked about. The downside is, and this is what I found when building lists, you have to put a couple of crap units in. A couple of 100 points on a couple of crap units. So the Psychophages, they're not good, right? They give a 6-up Fionn pain. They've still got D6 attacks. How they haven't changed that is beyond me. Just shocking. With Rippers are not amazing units. They can't even go through walls. We've got what's the other ones? Harrispexes, which quite difficult to hide because they're quite big, and just not really that good. 125 points, not terrible value though. But you won't be, again, to your point, Jack. I doubt you'll be winning super majors with one. And the other one, which I've forgotten, Pyrovores. Pyrovores are quite cool, but they're very slow. If they had Assault, I'd be more keen, but they were like they did in 9th. but they're movement 5, I think, or movement 6 maybe. And they are giant bases. Giant bases. So yeah, not that amazing. And I think this is the thing that kills me about the detachment the most, right? It's a lot of admin. It's so much admin. Every command phase, you're going to spend at least 10 minutes figuring out who points at who and then gives it D3, right? +1. It just feels a bit meh. Am I excited about playing 3 assimilators? Yeah, that would be cool, right? Am I excited about playing 2 or 3 psychophages and a bunch of pyrovores behind them? Nah, not really. So yeah, that's kind of how I am with it. There's an argument to say if triple assimilator worked, maybe someone might have tried triple haruspecs in the past, which are just like a crap assimilator to an extent. Movement, they're slower, they don't have the +2 to charges and stuff. They're not as good, but it's a big chunk of wounds, right, in an assimilation swarm. So if you push that forward and try and do something with it, like it just didn't work. I'm worried, especially in this new meta, that the same will be true for this triple assimilator. So yeah. What do you reckon, Jack? What do you reckon to this detachment? Have you looked at it much at all or played against it?
I've not played against it, but it's definitely the one that interested me the most when I saw the changes.
Admin, of course. Tau play.
Yeah, exactly. And it just feels like the rules for themselves and the stratagems and the enhancements, they just seem really good. The problem is they don't necessarily fit perfectly with the detachment itself, the data sheets itself. Sorry, it's like when you have a jigsaw puzzle, and it's like the pieces just don't quite fit. Like it's definitely 2 sky pieces together, but like they just don't fit together. And it's like you can. I think there's definitely a build in there, right? I think you could run like 1 psychophage, 3 rippers, and then like 2 or 3 assimilators. That's probably enough units to give you enough healing to go on, right?
I mean, what did I write? I did 3 assimilators, 1 3-mana pyrovores, 2 individual pyrovores, because that seemed to work for Craig Parker, and a couple of other lists that are similar. And what else did I put in there? 2 psychophages. Because then you've got 1, 2, you got 3, 6, 7, 8 units that are just going to regen wounds every turn. Like that's pretty good.
Yeah, the obvious problem is that Haruspexes have the same issue actually that Crutox Rampages have, and I'm going to do the same thing that people do to me with Crutox Rampages. And that's a great data sheet. It's a great data sheet. It's a great unit. It's really cheap for what it is. But like the Crutox Rampages, it can't go through walls. And that's ultimately the reason why you don't take it, is that it just has movement issues. I can see, again, like the Crutox Rampages, I can see a universe where you just try and rapid ingress it in on a flank and you try and bring it up. But that kind of just relies on your opponent either having built their list in such a way where they can't screen you, or them just forgetting, which is not really, that's fine if you want to go. I mean, if you want to go 3-2 at an event, you'll get a win like that, right?
Yeah,
Totally.
totally.
And that's totally fine. So I don't think if you really like them and you run them, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I think there's enough efficiency in that data sheet for it to be good. And they're also really fun, especially when you like show the tongue out and precision some character out. It's always just.
I think I think I played you once and I picked out. Oh no, it wasn't. It was at the. Oh, where was it? It might have been against you when I precisioned out the commander. Definitely killed a Tau commander with the tongue before.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you've done that to me before. It was staring down the barrel of like 3 exocrines and a Tyrannofix or something as well, so I wasn't too worried about it.
Yeah, perfect.
It didn't upset me. Yeah, I think it's one of those ones. Again, Assimilation Swarm is fine. It's not particularly well suited to UKTC because its main damage dealers are monsters. Which is just not good on UKTC with our L-shaped runes. L-shaped runes that cover the 2 side objectives on pretty much every UKTC map makes units that can't go through walls really hard to play.
It's melee monsters are the big issue, I think. The shooting monsters are there,
Yeah, sorry, yeah, it's a yeah.
Pointing out, right? To point out, it has the best enhancements in the codex in the book. I think there's one really good one in there.
So all the rest of the detachments don't have any good ones. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think each one has a good one. So I think 5 Feel No Pain in, sorry, oh my God, perfectly adapted in Invasion Fleet, Hunting Grounds in Vanguard Onslaught. This one is is the one where you get to heroic for free. Is really good. And it gives you fight first, which is something we don't really have except for lictors. So that's really a great enhancement in this one. I don't think Crusher has any good ones off the top of my head. I think the best one is something gives you an extra +2 OC or something. But yeah, it's pretty bad. So yeah, I think with the Simulation Swarm, I think the chat has kind of summed it up as well, really well. There is something there, but it does seem a bit, like this seems like a lot of work. Like I might just continue playing Invasion Fleet, really.
It's the Gladius problem, right? It's the Gladius problem. There's an existing detachment that is so well rounded and affects so many units and gives you such a straightforward and simple game plan that you could just play that over this, and there's no real reason. I mean, if you like it, then that's fine. But it's, in terms of like gameplay and power and that sort of thing, there isn't really much pulling you away from something like Invasion Fleet.
Paul Evans says, would rather move 200 plus models. Yeah. Oh man, yes. Well, I was thinking about the regaining wounds thing, and I was thinking, is that better than just being able to point at something and give it a 5 Feel No Pain, like a monster? Because how many times will your opponent shoot at multiple units in a game, in a normal game, right? They'll maybe get shots on a couple of units, and then it works to have the D3+1 respawning wounds or regenerating wounds. But if your opponent's only going to shoot one thing, actually 5 Feel No Pain might be better, especially if it's in a non-assimilator. So yeah, that was just one of the other things I was thinking. I think the math actually on it is all right. It's fine, but you can only do it once generally. So, all right. So I think we've got our judgment on Assimilation Swarm. Let's go to the next thing. Lists. So I have taken some lists, guys, and to show you from the last month. I suppose one of the things I've been really thinking about is how the hell do you prepare for the new meta? There's so many changes. There's literally so many new detachments. I have no idea what to work. Like I've said to Jack there, what detachments does he like? He likes the Grey Knight one, obviously the Necron one. But you hear different people talking about different things. I mean, Creation of Bile is very popular. This new World Eaters one looks half decent. Be interesting to see if people make it work. And then changes to AdMech. God, I think, not many people are talking about that, but that looks incredible. So I think I've been blown away personally by how many things to think about. And the wonderful sage, Tom Lohman, or him on high, said a really good point to me. He said, look, Dave, if you don't know what to build against in the new meta, just do what you do very, very well. Right? Go with what your detachment's trying to do very, very well. And I think we can see that a lot when we look at these lists. So here's some inspiration for you, building for things like Nottingham, building for other events that you might be going to with some ideas. First up, we have, and these are, by the way, some really awesome players that we always feature when we do lists. Like these guys are always there when I'm looking at the best lists. So first up is Ryan Verbeek, when 6-0 Felice Exterminamus 3. He took your Crusher Stampede, so a lot of the guys in the chat talking about Crusher Stampede. What have we got? We've got a Fighty Hive Tyrant. By Fighty, I mean he ain't got a gun. He's got the Silent Talons. And we've got a Neuro Tyrant. We don't have any enhancements because we're playing Crusher Stampede. No battle line, but we do have a Biovore, a Lictor, Paravors, 3 Raveners. He's gone for the 22 Neurogants, guys. It's an interesting strategy, Paul. Well, let's see if it works for him. 2 Exocrines, 2 Rupture Vexes, and Acid Vex, which I've been sold on again recently from Greg Chamberlain. I think Acid Vex is pretty strong. And then we've got a non-emissary and a Psychophage makes the list there as well. So not your typical Crusher Stampede list. We've got the Exocrines, we've got the Rupture Vexes, that's fine. But we do have a lot of other really cool, interesting tech here. So something hopefully to inspire the Crusher Stampede folks out there. His first opponent was First Company Task Force. Let me just heroic salute that person. Well done. Worst detachment I've ever played against. That is so bad, that detachment. But fair play to the geezer. Well done. And he took loads of characters, so he was out for a good time. Good for him. He lost 97.53. We then went into Votan with double Hecaton. I can tell you this matchup, the Votan do not like playing Crusher Stampede. The profiles just go really well into them. So that was a pretty rough one. 173 though, he got 73 points. I think that's really commendable. Liberator Assault Group after that, 84.69. This player actually with the Liberator Assault Group took 2 units of Reavers, so was clearly looking into the future before the data set dropped, because Reavers are supposed to be quite good now. Then we went into Custodies with Triple Blade, Champ and Wardens. Again, I don't think Custodies really fancy going into this. If they stand out in the open and just get 2 Exocrines and Rupture Vexes staring at them, and even the Acid Vex does a bit of damage here. Yeah, it's pretty rough. We then went into double Aquilon's Guard and got a fairly narrow win, 85.77, really strong performance. And then in the final, he goes into a Sam Pope style invasion fleet list. So if you don't know what that is, that's tons of gaunts. And he got a 90-82 victory. So really, really close game here. And well done to Ryan. He seems like he's really fought for a lot of those wins. So really pleased for him. Is there anything here, Jack, that you were surprised to see?
Surprised to see. No battle line probably is the biggest thing that sticks out to me, because when I Tyranid list, I always
funny actually. A lot of the ones we're going to look at don't have it, but I agree with you totally. I think it's so easy to just stick in a couple of Hormagaunts. What I like about this is got the Neurogaunts. So Neurogaunts are normally OC1, right? However, in Crusher Stampede, there's a bit of a meme. You can stick the Neurotyrant with them, and then they all get the monster keyword. So they all gain 2 OC each. So they become 66 OC plus the Neurotyrant for another 5. So it's like 67 OC.
It's funny, when I saw this list, I was like, oh, I wonder if that works. No, surely not. That would be silly. It must be coded to models, but no.
Yeah. So I don't know how he uses it. Probably to screen, maybe. But could you imagine just like moving that forward and then they kill 1 in Overwatch, and then all of a sudden you just don't have the OC anymore? But yes,
I really like. So I mean, it is a bit of Tyranid good stuff, like we said before, right? Exocrine, Rupture Effects. The Norn Emissary is a cool pick. I just like the Norns, so I'd like to see that in there. Psychophage, I think, is generally underrated. I think a 6+ Feel No Pain is quite good for the points that you pay on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me.
No, I get it. 95 points, man.
So yeah, some of us pay a CP for that for one phase. So
yeah, true.
The other thing I really like is the Acid Vex. I know when I play against Tyranids, when I think about things that really worry me, that normally the first thing is Gargoyles, and the second thing a lot of the time is Tyrannifexes with the Acid Spray, because they're just such a massive thing that I need to think about constantly, and not getting in the way of and getting overwatched. Mm-hmm. So I really like that pick there as well.
Very cool. Nice. And of course we've got the Paravor in there to make it ignore cover, because unfortunately it doesn't ignore cover, the old Acid Vex. Yeah. All right, so if you are a Crusher Stampede fan, check out that list. Next up, we have Nathaniel Bor. I'm probably butchering that. But again, another person who always comes up in lists that we look at. He won 4 games, drew 1 at the Iron Cage Winter Whammy 2. He took Vanguard Onslaught here. So really cool list. Again, doing what Vanguard does and just leaning into it without teching. Well, I'm probably with some tech in there, but you know, the basics are doing what Vanguard do very well. 3 Broodlords, spoiler alert, 3 units of 10 Gene Sealers. Death Leaper, a Neurotyrant with Hunting Grounds, and a Winged Hive Tyrant with Chameleonic. Gotta love that remaining like 10-15 points that you just throw on that now. 2 Lictors. It's actually quite good on it, to be fair. 2 Lictors, 2 Neurolictors. So that's an interesting take to have 4 Lictors running around doing actions for you, but also threatening their primary or scoring you primary because it battle shock things in your turn. And this is something we see a bit now. 2x6 Raveners, which is pretty cool. If you don't know Raveners, 6 of them. They're like warriors, but their special rule is they uppy downy. They also have movement 12 and loads more attacks at AP 1 7 attacks at AP 1 rather than 6 attacks with AP 2. So they're super fast. They're really good at eating screens and things like that. Really, really good. And then at the end of your opponent's turn, you pick them up, which is pretty cool. He's then got a unit of 3. Obviously, you can switch them into scoring pieces, which is what people tend to use 3 for. He's then got a Screamer Killer in there. Rogue suggestion for Vanguard Onslaught. and then 3 Venom Throps. So an interesting one. Again, quite rogue for Venom Throps to be there, but no, it's very interesting. He then went into 5 games here. The 40 Poxwalker Death Guard. Death Guard's not an easy game for this because the Gene Sealers do hit on 2s. If they make you -1 to hit, they hit on 3s. So not amazingly easy. But if you do get all your charges off, and you will because you're playing Death Guard, you do quite go through Marines fairly straightforward, to be fair, with the Gene Stealers. Then we went into 20 Nater World Eaters. So it was Angron and 20 Naters and then a bunch of other stuff. A solid win there. And I think really the Gene Stealers probably just do okay there into the Terminators. And the Terminators don't necessarily kill them all back. We then got another game into Death Guard with vehicles and Terminators. So interesting one this, because I tend to find the Vanguard Onslaught struggles with vehicles. Potentially, I mean, maybe the Screamer Killer helps, I don't know. But we did really well there and got 180. So a good 20-point differential there, which is quite nice. We then went into a swarmy style CSM list, so 55 Marines and then a bunch of cultists. So that seems to be what CSM tends to be doing nowadays. And that was a fairly narrow victory of, 14 points. Pretty good. And then Colin K, who I've heard before, I assume he's a very good player, and he was on Vanguard Marines, and that was an 88-88 draw. Brutal. Have you got any thoughts on Vanguard Onslaught, Jack, and how it and in your games against it?
It's actually one of the detachments I played against least. I've only played against it, I think, twice, and it was both against you, right when the Codex first came out. But I really like Raveners here. I think this is closer to a meta for them that is good. I remember way back when you played them, it was like Guard indirect meta, Eldar indirect meta. It's
horrible.
But I really like them in this because they can advance and charge, right? Because they're Vanguard organisms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's solid. Gene Stealers, I think, are fantastic, especially with the Brood Lords. I mean, it all just seems pretty solid. The Screamer Killer, I agree, is an odd choice, just a bit out of nowhere.
I'm trying to think what it does. So I did have a thought about this, and I might be crazy. I wonder if it's sitting on an objective.
Well, the home field.
Well, no, not home field, because the Neurotyrant's on there, right?
Oh yeah.
But 125 points. I think that's what it is nowadays. It's a 2-up armor save, T10. If it doesn't have anything it can charge, it can just stand on your safe expansion at OC, I think 3. And then if anyone wants to come and touch it, well, perfect. They've come to it. So yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's an interesting inclusion. I don't know what he's using it for. That's my best guess.
Yeah, on certain terrain formats, I can certainly see that being the case. And yeah, I was just going to say for the rest of it, there's a lot of tech here, right? This is the kind of army that wins its games through outplaying someone rather than stat checking someone with well, I'm just going to put all these gargoyles on a point and that's mine now. It's like you have to think a bit more about it than just that, which I like. I like this. This is good.
Very good. It's someone who's looked at the maps as well. I find that you need to look at maps if you're confident enough to take 3 Venom Throps. So I think Venom Throps obviously an aura, so you need to know where they're going to go in each battle, in each game, essentially on each terrain set, because you can't just like wing it in the game. They need to be somewhere that's going to be useful for you. So
this is like one of the 2 Tyranid lists I would run, like sort of the detachments I would look at running if I was going to play Tyranids as Vanguard.
Nice. All right, we do have 2 other Vanguard lists. It seems like the month of Vanguard. We've got 2 absolute amazing players, some of our best, taking this recently, and I thought I'd share them with you. So Alexander Engelos from Australia went 5-0 at a teams event. I know you all know how I feel about teams, but this is a really cool list I wanted to share with you. So we've got Death Leaper, Neurotyrant with Hunting Grounds, and a Winged Hive Tyrant with Chameleonic. Biovore, 2 Lictors, and this is where it gets spicy. We've got 3 Morlocks, we've got 2 Neurolictors, we've got 3 times 6 Raveners, and we've got 2 Trigons. I believe this was before the data slate, so the Trigon could do the 3-inch thing. But this is really cool. This is all snakes, and he went 5-0 with that. So happy days. If you are a snake enthusiast, please get out there and get this on the board. It's very fun. And then Sam Pope also went 5-0 with I assume trying to give his brain a rest from moving a 90 gaunts around. He's gone 5-0 with another Vanguard list, very similar to the one we saw before, except the change really is Prime with Warriors, Zoanthropes for the Neuro Tyrant to potentially go with. Maybe not, though, not necessary. And then we have 3 Morlocks in there as well. Yeah, very cool. So I love 3 Morlocks, man. Such a cool, fun thing to do. I had 2 in the Synaptic Nexus list at the weekend, and they're so good. They're so mediocre but fun, is what I would describe them as. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. We've got Invasion Fleet. Ryan Lynn took Invasion Fleet 5-1 to Merry Slaneshmus. He's gone for 2. So very interesting list this. So I always say that all One Eye and the Carnifex is one of the best units we've got, but it's very aggressive. And actually, as I mentioned, we like to stand on objectives and not die quickly. So you have to build an aggressive list, in my personal opinion, for them to work. And I think this is that very aggressive list. We've got 2 Broodlords for the 2x10 Gene Stealers. We've got all One Eye for the Carnifexes, both of them with Death Spitters. Then we've got 10 Gargoyles and 10 Hormigants because we like chaff. We've got a Biovore. We've got 2 Exocrines. We've got Haruspecs, 3 Lictors, a Maliceptor, and 3x3 Von Ryan Leapers. I see Mr. Monster in the chat. He did a video, I think, either today or recently, talking about the benefits of Von Ryan Leapers. So if you are interested or you are in the cult of Von Ryan's Leaper, you can go and watch that. Very fun. In the games that he played against a Lucas Liddell. Maybe I'm not the only Liddell in 40k. That's exciting. So he was playing guard. So well done, mate. Good. High five if you ever watch this. He won 92-51. Ryan beat him for 92-51. So a good win there. Then we went into triple Exo Bringers of Flame. A terrifying matchup for a lot of Invasion Fleet, especially if you've got the Gene Stealers, things like that. But a solid win, 88-58. Very nice. Typically, quite a hard game for Tyranids to win is that Sisters, but I don't know what it's like since they got nerfed. He then went into a similar Invasion Fleet list. So it was quite similar. The other one had the one Ryan was playing against had a T-Fex, amongst other things, but a good solid win there of 84-54. He then went into Chonky Terminator Grey Knights, which I think this list kind of likes, but overall, but 93-74, so again, a good win there. Hypercrypt MSU, a 3-point win. That is a really strong win, so well done to Ryan there. That aggressive playstyle will have, if it is an aggressive list, will have really benefited him there with Hypercrypt because he'll have taken over the board and made it very difficult for the Necron player to score points. And then he did lose in the last game to an all-killer, not much filler, Retaliation Cadre. So one for Jack to go and have a look at and see if he fancies that. Because you're not the biggest fan of Ret Cadre, are you?
No, it's not. It's not for me. So I've got nerfed. This one was this using Data Slate or no?
No, not. I don't believe so.
Okay. I mean, there's
It was 14th of December, so I don't think the Data Slate would have been legal.
Yes, that sounds right. I mean, this is I mean, I love Gene Stealers, right? I like a lot of these lists are taking Gene Stealers. I think they're a really great data sheet. And yeah, the aggressive play is going to play really well into a lot of these. I know sisters don't like getting pushed at.
Yes.
And I have to imagine that if you're spending, 650 odd points on indirect, if your primary target is just going to get lone opt by a stratagem whenever you try and do it. So that's one of the Vanguard stratagems, isn't it?
Yeah, this is Invasion Fleet.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, that's my bad. Either way, there's still 3 lictors in there, so that's you have safe mission play stuff.
Yeah.
So that's going to assist because those mission play units would usually be fodder for the sisters. But yeah, I mean the Grey Knights and the Hypercrypt again. If you take the board, that those lists start to struggle. And then Ret Cadre like it when you stand in the open, which eventually you will have to do if you're playing aggressively.
Yeah, so, I think they just pick off each unit because each unit's got a massive weakness here.
Yeah, one of the weaknesses of Ret Cadre is that you end up with a unit for each. Every unit is heavily specialized to kill a certain thing.
Yeah.
Problem with Tyranids is that their units, they fall into multiple breakpoints. Like they die to anti-infantry, but they also die to anti-elite firepower. So kind of just there's a lot of efficiency you can get out of Ret Cadre for that. So
no, that's fair. I mean, Rakzul in the chat pointing out the really interesting thing here as well. 3x3 von Ryan's Leapers is really cool. Very different, something you don't see.
Some matchups they'll just absolutely ruin an opponent's day, right? If you just get first turn with those and bomb them forward, you can just tie up vehicles like in Bringers of Flame, like in Hypercrypt, you can just tie things up, stop things going up in the air. It's just a nightmare for him.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I was looking at this versus Corn Berserkers, right? A really random comparison. Von Ryan's Leapers versus Corn Berserkers. Von Ryan's Leapers is 70 points for 3. Corn Berserkers 90 points for 5. Corn Berserkers have 20 attacks or maybe 25 attacks. Von Ryan's Leapers have 18. The 20 points cheaper, right? So instead of that, the Von Ryan's Leapers get fight first, movement 10, T5, 3 wounds, so they got a 4 up armor save, but they do get a 6 up invul. They heroic for free. Like, wow, this objectively is not a crap unit, but I find that Tyranids have they do have a lot of damage 1 melee options that are all a bit meh. Give me a damage 2 melee option that isn't a Tyron Guard, and I'll be very happy. Anyway, let's go to the next one. Oh, that's it. All right, guys. Nice. Thank you, Paul Evans, for becoming a member. Awesome. Cool. So I think that's it, guys. We're gonna clock off. We'll be back hopefully again in 2 weeks to give you a bit of a prelude. Hopefully, we'll be able to tell you about the Nottingham lists and what people have taken to Nottingham, which is going to be very exciting. So very excited. JP won't be with us. He'll be on his honeymoon. Ooh la la. So that'll be very nice for him. But yes, we'll be here to talk to you about all things Tyranids then. Please go and watch the videos of the battle reports that we did. So there's a Bioform Onslaught battle report, which is on TTS against Tom. When was that, Jack? Was that 3 weeks ago?
Something like that. If you are a member, like Paul Evans just became, you can get another battle report in our member section this weekend.
Oh, very cool. Nice. And we also have a battle report that just went live 2 hours ago, which is myself versus Ben Pierce for Trash War Gaming's Dracarliquins, which is a really good game. Cool. Thanks, guys. You see everyone saying thank you and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone. And we will see you the other side of the new year. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye.